It's just gone 6 o'clock. A very good morning to you. Let's bring you the headlines this hour. More cases of the coronavirus have been confirmed in the African countries. In an ENCA exclusive, another family accuses the Drakensberg Boys Choir School of not taking action after allegations of sexual misconduct. ANC Secretary-General Ace Mahashule explains the ANC's support for former President Jacob Zuma.
Well in contact. Good work across the line. They've done it. South Africa.
And some good news this Monday morning. The Blitzboks have won the Sevens tournament in Los Angeles. Well, very good morning to you once again. It's just after 6 o'clock. This is the Monday edition of The First Take with me, Xoli Mngambi. So, currently there are 6 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the continent of Africa. The affected countries are Egypt, Algeria, and Nigeria. A question was asked of the South African Interministerial Committee about whether or not the continent is undercounting the cases of coronavirus yesterday. This was the response.
If now there's going to be a media sensation to say, well, you know, America has got so many, China has got so many, Africa is undercounting, on what basis do we make that statement? The laboratory in South Africa tests for most of the countries in Africa. There wouldn't have been anyone that we would have missed.
Now, while we agree with Minister Mkhize about fair reporting on this matter, however, legitimate questions must be asked. For example, a media colleague travelled to Ghana at the weekend and they were made to fill out this form, which mainly relies on the honesty of the passenger. Inside the airport, they were made to stand in front of a scanner, but other people are allowed to pass by while the one individual is being scanned. So how effective is the screening process in other parts of the continent? We'll put these questions to Dr. Sibongile Walaza, who is from the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, who will join us in this hour. But first, let's get the weather. And Joel Guy is there. Joel, good morning. So a cold start to the week, is it?
Indeed, Xoli, we are going to have stormy weather this Monday across the eastern half of the country, and the storms are actually going to start early. We already have the ingredients in place. You can see those storm clouds blanketing the eastern areas, and over the southern areas we also have some rain clouds and a bit of fog along the west coast, including around Cape Town. So if you're in the mother city, switch on those fog lights as you head to the office. I'll give you more details as we go through the rest of the morning.
All right, thank you, Joel. We'll touch base with you a little later. For now, the business of the coffee chat is in session. Joining me this morning is Hadi Chokos.
We've never actually done a cheers. How about we cheers?
A Monday morning
Cheers.
cheers. Cheers. Happy New Week, guys.
You guys are making this all very special. Good morning, Nandi.
Good morning. How are you?
All right, I'm good. So let's start with the front page of the Mercury, guys. I think it's the story of the week, I suspect. And the front page of the Mercury there, Heidi, speaks about SA airports on high alert. Subheadline, Durbanites in China prepare to come home. We're not sure whether these Durbanites are going to form part and parcel of the 150 or so people that are going to be evacuated from China. But the nub of this article, just tell us in the main what they are saying, over and above what we heard from the ministers yesterday.
Sure. So actually these 2 Durbanites do form part of the 151 that have asked to leave China. And this all forms part of the South African government wanting to bring back over 150 people from China due to this coronavirus outbreak. And I think it's a very big concern for many people, specifically in South Africa, given the fact that there is no one in South Africa at the moment that has coronavirus. And you're taking these people out of the epicenter of where the coronavirus is, to bring them back home. As much as they do want to come back home, they're obviously very concerned being there in China. It is a very big concern for South Africans, even though the health minister has indicated that the country is ready. They are fully prepared to make sure that there is no spread, and these people that will be brought back are going to be screened. And they are saying if they are not showing signs that if they're showing signs rather that they do have coronavirus, they'll be quarantined for about 21 days. Nobody will be allowed to enter that area. It will be a no area, a zone area. So I think as much as South Africa, I'm worried. To be honest, when I see this, I think, oh my word, you're bringing people from where this virus started, you're bringing them back into the country.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was an article that I actually read that said this is how Australia actually got the virus, because they were bringing people out of China back into Australia.
Yeah.
And perhaps their screening system wasn't efficient enough, but we do hope that the government will be able to make sure that their screening is proper, and that they'll be able to manage those people that have come back in. We're speaking about 150 people. That's a lot of people.
Indeed, yeah. There is an undisclosed venue where these 151 people are going to be kept. Government won't say where that is. Nandi, is it fair for ministers to almost feel insulted when a question was raised about how effective are screening processes on the continent? In fact, the actual question that was asked of the ministers there by a French journalist, I'm not sure whether this insult was taken because it was a French journalist who was asking the question about whether or not the continent is undercounting. Yesterday we were speaking about 4 cases on the continent of Africa. This morning, that figure of 4 has risen by 2 more people. So we now currently have 6 people. And that's in Algeria, Nigeria, and the other country is Egypt, right? Are our ministers fair in not wanting for these questions to be asked? Because these are legitimate questions.
Absolutely not. It's like you say, they are legitimate questions. We are concerned about our health. We are concerned about the health of our loved ones. And we need to find out more about the screening process, because in the article I was reading earlier today, it says that even if you pass the screening, the symptoms could still show up after like 3 or 4 days. So they could say to me, you're fine, don't worry about it, and then in 4 days' time I start to show the symptoms. And also, there's no need to then start undercounting and not giving us the real numbers. Don't protect the issue. If there's a crisis, there's a crisis. We need to know what's going on. The more we know, the better it'll be for us to deal with it, I think. So don't take it personally when people want to ask questions and know more.
Yeah, you are the health minister.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed,
exactly.
It's important. And I think it's even more so when the ministers are telling us that South Africa's laboratory, which is the NICD, is actually responsible for checking and making sure that the rest of the continent is properly screening people. And I'm happy that this morning we're going to be joined by someone from the NICD who is going to be talking about that. Whilst we're on the subject of the coronavirus, Heidi, the front page of the Business Day, the headline there is Mboweni's fiscal targets in doubt as unions resist. But I want to start with the headline down below that says coronavirus to dent global growth for 2020. It's having a real impact.
Most definitely. And I was actually watching something yesterday where they were saying that, you know, economies across the globe have not yet factored in what the coronavirus has done, obviously because growth is measured at a later stage. So the impact of what this is going to do to global growth is enormous. The JSE just last week, it's been at its lowest since 2008. And if you remember correctly, in 2008, we had that global financial crisis.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been that low since then. So this is having a major impact. And also, if you think about China as a global market and how much they produce and the imports and exports that come out of China. And it's basically come to a standstill because of this coronavirus. I mean, if you're listening to all these interviews that we're even doing on ENCA, when you ask the people, the South Africans that are in China, what is actually happening? How does your day-to-day look like? And they're all in one room, or they all have to stay in one specific area. And looking at pictures, the roads look completely dead and isolated because there isn't much economic activity happening because everybody's so worried about the spread of this virus.
Sure, and you can imagine the lockdown that they've been under in Wuhan, specifically in China. The manufacturing sector is said to have taken a serious knock there. But let's move on from the subject of the coronavirus and bring things much closer to home at a financial level, Heidi. Mboweni's fiscal targets in doubt as unions resist. This is about the story that stemmed from the minister tabling his budget speech in Parliament. There are going to be critical meetings taking place this week. But all of this, I can't not take it back to the decision that is impending, and that Moody's, who are going to pronounce sometime this month about whether or not South Africa officially goes to junk, or at least avoids it up until October.
Exactly, and it's so critical for South Africa to get its house in order. And the fact that the minister announced in the budget speech last week that he's going to cut the wage bill by 160 billion, this of course has angered and frustrated the unions to say that why should workers suffer for the bad decisions over the last couple of years? 160 billion is a lot of money that's going to be cut from this wage bill, but the minister has been speaking about this for a very long time. He has indicated that we need to have extreme measures to make sure that we get our house in order, to get our debt in order, and Moody's is watching very closely. When our budget speech was over, Moody's and Fitch came out with a statement and said, while you're saying you're going to do A, B, and C, we want to see implementation, and you're saying you're going to be cutting the wage bill, but are you really, given the fact that unions are resisting and they're indicating they're going to take it to the streets? So it's extremely concerning, and Moody's is watching very closely. We cannot afford to be pushed into junk.
I wonder what the picture is going to look like from here on, because there does seem to be this appetite as well for unions to take to the streets. So I'm not sure what the rolling mass action will possibly look like. Nandi, perhaps we can talk about something that's much more uplifting, the Blitz box.
Definitely. I bring good news on a Monday morning. On a chilly Monday morning, I change over. Our national teams are making us really proud this weekend. It's been really great. The Proteas women, as you know, are at the ICC T20 World Cup. Well, they're through to the semi-finals for the second time ever in their history. They beat Thailand to get to Pakistan after beating Thailand and England to get to their semi-final. So impressive, 3 wins on a trot. We're going to be speaking to Coach Hilton Moring a little bit later on just to hear how the mood is ahead of that semi-final. And in the Blitz box, as you said earlier on in your intro, they've won the final of the LA Sevens, which is one of the legs of the HSBC Rugby 7 series. So that's really good. They beat the likes of New Zealand, Fiji, they drew with Ireland, Kenya, Canada. So just great performances from some of our national teams, and hopefully all the others will also be inspired after that.
Fantastic.
And didn't Kaizer Chiefs also win? Kaizer
Chiefs won, but some Orlando Pirates fans don't want to talk about it, Heidi.
And the Derby people. Look, it's important. Thank you very much for reminding us of that. Ladies, thank you very much. Heidi, thanks indeed. You and I,
see you in a
Ms. Chabalala, are here for the long.
All the way.